Welcome to Catalyst Conversations, the podcast where we spark powerful change in women's wealth. I'm Hadriana Leo, a wealth coach, counselor, and strategist, and each week we dive into the conversations, strategies, and stories that help women confidently create the life they've always dreamed of. So grab your favorite bevy, settle in, and let's get started on transforming your relationship with money. This is Catalyst Conversations, igniting change in women's wealth. Let's spark the conversation. Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Catalyst Conversations. And welcome also to our conversation table, the one and only Kerry Ramsay of Fresh Idea Collective. Kerry, my dear, welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, it's so awesome to have Kerry here because we've been moving in some similar circles, although geographically, we've never quite been in the same space. We've lived probably within 2 to 3 hours of each other, would you say?
I think so, yeah. And we've crossed paths in different events and a lot online as well. So, I mean, thank goodness for Zoom and all of the connections we can build this way.
Yes, that's fantastic. In fact, I recently interviewed another podcast guest. We have been in each other's circles, and he lives all the way in the southern US, and we have literally never met physically. But I really love the opportunity to connect and to share because there's so much good stuff out there that we get to talk about, we get to ruminate on, and we get to share with the people in our lives. So I'm really, really happy that you're here with us. And I'm going to kick us off with what you've provided us, Kerry, as a saying that you love, a favorite quote, a motto, a mantra, what have you. And when I asked Kerry for this is what she shared. And I love that it's succinct. Your network is your net worth. Your network is your net worth. And I have to add that she put an exclamation at the end. Okay. So this is going to be an exclamatory conversation connecting network and net worth. Why is this something that is so important to you? What about this phrase really resonates?
Well, first of all, I should say I'm not the co or the author of that phrase. It's one that now has been co-opted, I think, by a lot of people. I'm not even sure who first said it, but when I heard it, something just clicked, something fell into place, and I realized that something that I believed for so long, the fact that, the connections we make, the people who are in our circle, whether that's our inner circle or are on the periphery, have such a huge impact on our personal and our professional success. And so it's something that has stuck with me and almost validates, I think, the work that I do, which is to bring women together and to really form community in a way that amplifies their voices and their businesses.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And that's something you've been doing for some time, even through the various titles along your career path. That connection factor seems to just flow through. So tell us a little bit more about what you're doing at Fresh Idea Collective, which is in Stratford, Ontario.
Yeah, so we're based in Stratford now, and you're right, connection has been that through line through all the different hats that I have worn. I've owned different businesses, both online, bricks and mortar, and I was a professor for 15 years. Currently, I have my own business, which is Fresh Idea Collective, which is based in Stratford, and we provide meetups, masterminds, and mentorship. So the meetups happen on a monthly basis, and these are opportunities for connection for local women entrepreneurs. We do have people who come in from London, Kitchener, Waterloo, even Trenton and Belleville, from across the province, depending what the event is. We hold those every single month. So there's that continuity and consistency, which I think also really is fuel on the fire when it comes to connection and this idea of your network being your net worth. So we have those events that are happening. We also have the connection that happens through our masterminds. And so several times a year, I'll run a 3-month mastermind, sometimes even a mini mind, which is like a 6-week version. And through those online masterminds, we have groups of 5 to 10 women who will connect and just really support each other. And I even call it a micro community, right? Because you're with 10 women rather than in a group of 30 or 100. And so it's almost like we're funneling from an event now to a mastermind where we get granular about our businesses. And then, of course, I guess at the most granular level is the one-on-one mentorship, which I also provide. And I tallied up the other day. I think I've now mentored and coached over 800 women, and it's so
Wow.
incredibly, I don't know, energizing to even think about that and to see, what they're doing now, how far they've come, and to maintain relationships along the way. So yeah, those three things, meetups, masterminds, and mentorship form, I would say, the heart and soul of Fresh Idea Collective. And I also, of course, as you and I, this is how you and I met. I also run the Women's Entrepreneurship Strategy for Queen's University, which is in Kingston. So that's an additional 1,600 women there that we serve in that region. And because I'm remote, I'm able to, serve Queens as well as running my business. And so it's absolutely the air I breathe, as you can tell. Every day I get up, it's in service for women entrepreneurs, and connection really is at the heart of all of it.
Yeah, I definitely see the thread because even with the one-on-one, because the more intimate the connection becomes, the stronger the connection becomes. So you're working with, a meetup, maybe 30 women. Within that meetup, these women take some initiative and they form small bubbles that create the intimacy that might be lost in a large event, but you're providing the opportunity to meet, to exchange ideas. I love the name of your business, by the way, Fresh Idea Collective.
Thank you.
It really resonates in the creativity that comes out of collaboration. Loving it. So all of that intimacy is coming out of connection, but you're working with business women. You're working with women who are looking at profit margins, they're looking at marketing, they're looking at, sales charts and all these different metrics or matrices. Um, how is connection of any use to them? You tell me how we're bridging that.
Well, it comes back to that mantra that your network is your net worth. And I think that this is something I've definitely explored. And, as a former professor, I still teach and train on this topic and others. And so there are three reasons I would say why women who are in business, whether they are solopreneurs, and I would say especially if they are solopreneurs, but women with businesses of any size at any stage, it's really important that we grow our network. And there's three reasons. The first is awareness, the second is affiliation, and the third is activation. So obviously you could tell I love alliteration. It also helps me keep things straight in my brain. But the first is awareness. So that's the piece where we talk about visibility and reputation. I don't know if there's anything more powerful for growing your visibility, right, than being at meetups, whether that's in person or online, frankly, and really getting to engage with a community of individuals who are, at least in your space, whether that's geographically or your industry. There's some relevance to the event that you show up to. And I do tell women, I mean, we all have a limited number of hours in our day and in our month. So I'm not suggesting, go sign up for every networking event out there. I actually think you should do your research and pick the one that is the right fit for you because frankly, for you to be visible in the wrong audience, I'm not sure that that is great for your bottom line, right? I mean, yes, there are those one-off connections we make, but I think being intentional about the events that we attend can really help in terms of that visibility and reputation building. Of course, that can also happen through our social media and the connections we foster through our newsletters. So that again is, I think, a primary reason I see that business women should pay attention to growing their circle and their network, and that is awareness. We all
Yeah.
need visibility.
You know what? With from the perspective of marketing, with the understanding that marketing now is more about personal branding than ad dollars going to mass audiences, it makes sense that awareness needs to be tied to an entrepreneur actually showing up,
Mhm.
because we are the brand. The entrepreneur is the brand. And the best way to make someone aware of that brand is by showing up,
Yep.
right?
It's to say,
Right?
hi, here I am. And it is one of the most difficult things I know for introverts. And can I just say, I am an introvert. I am an
Yes.
introvert who hates networking. And that's why I created a space where I was like, if I could attend event, what kind of event would I attend? I looked around and didn't see any. Not to knock all the fantastic work that's done by so many of our agencies and our chambers and economic development groups. There are some amazing things that happen out there, but for whatever reason, and I do sometimes attend those as well, but when it came to really moving the dial, I realized I need a certain type of a meetup, and that's why I created one. And in fact, we're very intentional at the meetups about creating spaces for introverts, because let's be honest, networking events tend to be designed for extroverts who are fine with stepping into a room full of strangers and moseying up to someone they don't know. I mean, there's nothing that makes my stomach churn like more than like, oh, this yucky feeling, right? But now, I do step into a room with more confidence. That could come with age, but I think it also comes with attending now hundreds of these events, which I have organized and or that others have. So yeah, so that awareness piece is definitely the first reason I think we need to pay attention to networking and connection. The second is affiliation. So
Mhm.
affiliation comes down to thinking about strategic partnerships and collaborations,
Mhm.
which, let's be honest, those don't happen in our four walls of our office.
No.
Until we step outside those walls, uh, physically or on a Zoom call, obviously I would say it's even better if it can be in person. We start to develop relationships and find common ground where we can see alignment. And hey, Adriana, you and I are an example of that.
Yeah.
So you have spoken for, entrepreneurs, in the Kingston area, but I also brought you to Stratford and you spoke
Yes.
last year at our Passion to Profit Idea Summit. You
Mm.
did such a beautiful job of, presenting your point of view. And so there's an example of the fact that, had you and I not connected and found alignment, we would have collaborated later and created affiliations, I would say, that I think boosted your business, certainly boosted my business, and it was just a win-win. So it's almost like awareness is that first stage. And
Mhm.
so let's say you meet 29 other women at an event, there might be one that you see as a potential. Now, let's be honest, you might not actually meet all 29 at that event, but that's why I at least hold these monthly events, because each time you go, you meet more people. You're like, oh, I didn't even know you did that. And so we kind of go deeper into relationship, find the common ground, and where appropriate, say, you know what? Here's a great idea for collaboration. I think that we might be a fit. Let's try it. And so I'm a huge believer in collaboration as a way, if we loop back to awareness, to even get in front of different audiences, right?
Yeah.
So when you and I collaborate, I'm in front of your audience, you're in front of my audience. We just doubled our reach. All right.
Yeah.
So there's sort of this interwoven connection that happens, whether it's at the awareness level or we move into affiliation. And
Yeah,
then
it definitely, before you go to that next letter A, I think I'll add an A in that when these affiliations are based on authentic
yes,
connection,
yes.
they just happen so beautifully.
Mhm.
A great example is even this podcast episode. I've worked with you, I've delivered services for you, you've delivered services for me, and what have you. And there's this natural, I guess, mutually beneficial relationship that is being reinforced every time we're able to serve each other. And when that happens in entrepreneurial relationships, there's no way to lose. It's just win win all the way. So, figuring out, I think I'm thinking of awareness as the top level, like you said, and that awareness level gives you opportunities to explore affiliations and collaborations, and then that moves us down to some of the results of that awareness and affiliation, which is your third idea.
Right. So the third idea is activation, and that's where we move into, the revenue results, the referrals, the client and sales leads. I mean, that's a natural ending point, if you will, or even, part of the cycle. And maybe then it starts again where we have that income and impact benefit of our network. Again, our network is our net worth. And I don't believe that's just personal growth and development. I believe that's bank account growth and development, right? I'm a big believer that women need to be making a profit in their business, and there's no shame in that. And there's no apologies for that. And I know you believe that because I read your book and I passed out your book to 120 women at my last event. So, yeah, I totally am on board with the idea that, you know what, we have to activate our network sometimes when we need something as well. And I think women, again, I've coached a lot of women. I have interacted with a lot of women. I will safely say that a lot of women do not like to ask for help. They do not like
Yeah.
to put up their hand and say, I have something for sale. Um, you know, yes, and I don't know if it's extrovert, introvert thing. I don't know that it is. I think it's just social conditioning that we
Mhm.
should figure it out on our own. We should, I don't know what we think is going to happen. Like, we have to talk to people and interact with our network, and every now and then say, hey, I've got this thing. And one of my techniques that I do like to do very often is that I will send an email to someone and say, hey, I've got this thing on offer. Do you know anyone in your network that might be, interested? Now, sometimes they themselves will be interested, which is
That's
wonderful.
right.
But then also they might then forward that and pass that on to their own network, depending what my ask is, whether it's a sale or whether it's something else. Like I'm looking for a speaker, I'm looking for a referral or a lead. So I really do believe that there's this trickle down effect
Mhm.
that starts with the awareness that moves to the affiliation. And of course, what we're doing here is deepening relationships, right? And then
Yes.
we're activating. I mean, it's hard to ask someone to activate and give you a referral when you don't know much about them and they don't know much about you. That's a cold call. And we know that's the toughest call. But when you
Mhm.
have warm or even hot leads, those are the ones that are easier to convert. And so I think that we do need to spend more time than we do converting these, potential leads into sales of whatever type. And again, you use the word authentic. I think that is at the heart of certainly what both of us do, is that we do feel alignment and authenticity, and therefore we don't feel bad saying, I've got this amazing thing on offer. I think it's going to change your world. Come on in and check it out.
Yeah. And then it reinforces what got you together in the first place. I think if we are not offering, we're holding back. We're saying, well, I'm not actually doing anything that's worth your while. So why consider me? The connections that we're making are expecting that they will support us, not always with a sale, but they will support us and we will support them because it's, again, mutually beneficial. So let's get back to the idea of networking because we're going to connect with people. We're going to identify events that we anticipate will be a way of finding and connecting with great people. What's our criteria? What are we looking for in those events, especially? Oh, Carrie, if I have to show up in person, it has to be spectacular. Okay. If
Right?
I what am I looking for as I'm vetting or exploring? And there are literally thousands of events happening all
Yeah.
over the place.
So doing your research before you get to the event, I think is 90% of the success rate that you can have. Checking at most of the groups, let's say organizations, are going to have a strong website or, Instagram presence or Facebook presence. Check them out. Are they, first of all, like who attends their events? Take a look at who's in the photos and who's commenting, and you can do really in 10 minutes you can get a good feel
Mhm.
for things like, is this organization representative? Right? First of all, like,
Yes.
I'm interested in attending inclusive and diverse networking events. That's just, again, at the core of my heart and my soul. And so I can get that very quickly from looking at an Instagram feed. You might also look at testimonials from those events. So that's one way, is just to do a quick online search. The other, of course, is word of mouth. So when I arrived in Stratford about 3 years ago, I knew one person here. And so that one person, who is a fabulous colleague and friend, I asked her, I said, so where would you suggest? And so I got input from her on that. So asking people you trust and who understand what you do, and how you're, what might be in alignment, I think would be another great idea. So like you can, do most of the work before you actually show up to the event. And then of course, I would trust your gut when you get to that event. Every event has its vibe, right? I don't know how to explain it. And people will tell me about the vibe, and I love to hear. They're like, Kerry, it's and they explain it. It's like so open. We just don't feel judged. It's so welcoming. I love to hear that because that's a brand. You can't control a brand. It's like
Yeah.
that's what people experience. So what do you experience when you step into that room? From the moment you get there, right? From the signage that leads you to the room, to the person that
Mhm.
welcomes you, to the organization and the thoughtfulness that's put into every aspect. I think you can get a pretty good feel for the first time you walk in the room. And then, the other thing I look for, honestly, is how consistent are the events. So are they
Mhm.
once a month? So that's kind of I like to show up once a month somewhere. And I'm not going to look for something once a week. So are they consistent? Because, you know, having something once a year is wonderful, but there's no continuity. So how am I going to grow the network based on that particular event or approach or format? So I don't know. Again, it's partly instinct, I think, and I do
Mhm.
believe in trusting our gut when we step in the room. And then after that, it's sort of following up and reflecting on, okay, what is the quality of the experience I had and the people I met? And when I say
Mhm.
quality, we all have quality and worth. I mean,
Yes.
quality in terms of, do I feel like I fit? Is this, in alignment? That's and authentic. I think that's how I would judge quality in terms of, a networking experience.
Yeah, 100%. I like that you mentioned the vibe because I feel it. Like I feel it. Sometimes I'm not able to articulate it with the vocabulary that I'm blessed with, but I feel
Mhm.
it. And when I feel it, I know. I've learned, however, that sometimes I may need to go again.
Yeah,
Sometimes
true.
that initial may have been a beep, a little
Yeah.
something, a hiccup, what have you, and I typically give it another chance. In fact, I'm exploring a new networking opportunity tomorrow, so I'm excited to do that. I'm gonna look and see. And in addition to looking at the event and their Instagram, I check out the leader's profile,
Sure.
because similar to your events, I believe the vibe, the objectives, the general way and that people are brought together, that is defined from the
Mhm.
top down. So if the person at the top is not very warm, the events may have a cold feel unless they go out and they work deliberately to bring some warmth to the event. So I think taking cues from that personality at the top, and it helps you set your expectations. What about networking behavior? When we're at the meeting, we've decided, okay, this is the one. To be honest with you, I just had a call with somebody and I'm like, my goodness, if I could just get these 35 minutes back. Think part
Yeah.
of it is I'm working, I was exploring. So just like you, I met this person at an event and I thought, oh, this is something interesting. I want to get to know better. So I sent out an invitation. I said, hey, would you mind? Let's do an introductory call. I'd love to know what you do, what have you. I think I may have said two sentences in that interaction in the 35 minutes, Carrie. And the entire rest of the conversation was less than enticing for me. Anyway, I
Mm,
made a note in my notebook. But it's exactly what happens at a networking event when we're given the chance to connect one on one, maybe have some conversation time.
right.
What do you recommend, or what's your instruction? What's your
Mhm.
guidance to people on how to actually conduct business in these awareness type events?
Well, I think it was fashion icon Iris Apfel, who was probably in her 90s or in her early hundreds when she said, "You have to be interested to be interesting." And I
Yes.
really believe that. You have to be curious about other people and not just show up with your own agenda, but to be genuinely curious and interested in the person you're talking to, first of all. So I think you have to, however you connect when you step in the room, like, hopefully there's an icebreaker. We tend to do icebreakers at ours that naturally will, connect people together. And so let's say once you've, got that one person you're talking to, asking questions and being ready. If you're an introvert, maybe you have one or two opening questions, right, that you
Right.
ask. And so one question I love to ask right now is, what's lighting you up about your business? Well, let me
Mm.
tell you that their face usually lights up because immediately their mind goes to, yeah, this is why I got into, and they'll just go. And so, follow-up questions, and hopefully they have the presence to ask you questions as well. To your point, you don't want it to be a one-sided conversation. But I think that that idea that you have to be interested to be interesting is one that I've just never forgotten. I remember we were in New York City. There was a whole storefront window that was dedicated to Iris Apfel and her
Mhm.
fashion, you know, um, her fashion appeal, and that quote was written on the window. And I thought I took a picture and I've never forgotten it because I think that's the key. Honestly, if there was one thing, to be successful as a network, just be interested, ask people questions, and you never know where it's going to lead.
Yeah, 100%. It also brings to mind, in my mind, that the tried and true methods don't get old. They don't
Mhm.
fall away. We're trying to do all kinds of new things, reinventing wheels that are not broken and work very well. The idea of showing up and leading with service first, that has never failed. Leading with, you know what, I'm curious. Let me satisfy my curiosity and ask some questions. That has never failed. Yet we're doing all these crazy things, trying to turn things around. Tried and true, it still works. So be interested in order to be interesting. It turns into it looks like asking a few questions, and when it's time to share, you share. So we're at networking events, we're interested, and we become interesting. How do you suggest we manage those follow-ups now that we've gone back to our computers, our desks, our business service areas? What do the next steps look like?
Well, one of the things again that you can look for in your networking events that you attend is how easy do they make it to follow up and connect with people, right? Because,
Mm.
not everyone has a business card anymore. Like, is there a directory of the event? So when you attended Passion to Profit last year, it was a large event. We had 120 women. So there was a digital toolkit that went out. Everyone's names and businesses and websites were in there, not their personal email or not their email. You had to go to the website and find it, but at least people could follow up. So there was, a form of doing that. Another way that we do that at our events is we have a sharing table. And so when people come in, how you feel like your business cards are in your purse. You're like, I don't know, I feel weird pulling this out. This seems so awkward. So what we
Mm.
have is just you come in, everyone puts their business cards on the sharing table or their promotional item, their pen, their bookmark, their bag of popcorn in some cases, whatever it might be. And so people can go to the table and they do. They pick up cards, sometimes they pick up everything and then they go follow up the next day, or they just pick up the ones from the folks that they have had those conversations with. So again, I think the onus is a little bit on the event organizer to provide
Mhm.
those opportunities. Now, let's say there are none, then it is a matter. I still have business cards, and during COVID we didn't use them. So I think those business card businesses almost went out of, they had nothing else to print, but it's back and I keep them on me. I hand them out and sometimes I'm the only one, but people really appreciate name with face and I don't get forgotten because even if it gets thrown into their purse or their laptop bag, I'll probably resurface in the next week or so and they'll know how to follow up. But really,
Yeah.
I try to take the action to do it. I don't rely on someone following up with me. So that means I have to leave there with contact information. So whether that's through a sharing table or a digital directory, or I'll just ask, for their business card or a way I can follow them on Instagram even. And then I follow up within, 28 or sorry, 24 to 48 hours.
Mhm.
That way they haven't probably forgotten me yet. And that's why I suggest, and the fortune is in the follow-up. I do believe that
Yes.
that again is a part of, connecting that awareness to eventually, converting in some sort of way to your bank account. And like I say again, networking is a business activity. So we should have our, that is a goal in mind, that we want to grow our business. Of course, there's all sorts of perks along the way, like great
Of course.
relationships, but
Yes.
it is a business activity. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a business activity and it's one that needs to be prioritized. And I say that because, as good as we are at doing the thing that we do in our business, if no one knows about it, we're out of business, right?
Right.
So the intention here is to follow through the A's, the awareness, the affiliation and activation, to do it in a way that resonates, to literally create a system. Wouldn't you say that there's a
Uh,
systematic approach to networking?
Yeah. And one of the ways that I think get people, and women in particular, that I train and I talk to think about this, especially when they come to me with this feedback, Carrie, I've already got enough friends. Like that's what I don't have time. And I'm like, your business network can turn into business besties and friendships, but that's not the intention of a business network necessarily. You're not going to be best buds with everyone in there. But I do suggest that systematically, if you want to say it that way, they look for they try to make sure they have these 6 people in their network. And I
Mhm.
talk about this often. So there's 6 types of people that if you don't have them in your network, you might want to show up at that next networking event looking for this kind of a person.
Right.
So the first one is a cheerleader, someone who cheers you on. This person needs to be in your network because, hey, Joanna, you and I both know there are days we wake up, we're like, I think I'll
Not
just do something
today.
else, like we can get down. And that's the time you want to have that cheerleader in your circle to say, no, Carrie, look at what you did this past year. I can't believe the results you're getting. And they just hopefully remind you. So that's a person and a role that someone has in your network. The second would be a challenger, right? So this is
Mhm.
someone who challenges you to do better, grow better. And often these are people that are in our masterminds, I find, because you go deep with them. There's accountability that's involved. So that's your challenger. If you don't have a challenger, you can let things slide, can't you?
Yes.
And I think if we are serious about growing and leveling up, we need a challenger. The next kind of person would certainly be that connector in our life. So I know I'm a connector for a lot of women that I
Yes.
work with. But do you have a connector in your business? Someone you can email, say, Carrie, do you know a bookkeeper? Who's in this region, or hey, do you know someone who I could get to speak at this conference on cybersecurity? So I get these kind of requests every day. I think it's partly because I'm just a natural connector.
Mhm.
But do you have a connector in your network? The next person would be a collaborator. So a collaborator is someone you literally go into that affiliation with, and do some sort of like maybe co-host an event or go on a podcast, or I don't know, co-write an article. It could be just about anything. So a collaborator is another type of a person that you want to find in your network. The next is a confidant. So this is that
Mhm.
friend that you can, I mean, ideally they're in business as well, so they get it, but you can tell them things that you might not tell other people in your network. Let's be honest. You
Mhm.
have to, guard your ideas and just be wise, right? About who you trust with your deepest and darkest fears and secrets. But that
Mhm.
confident plays the role in your network. And I have encountered those. Let me tell you, they are few and far between. But if you can
Yep.
find one, that's all you need. And the final one of the 6 is a coach, because I really do believe that you do need
Mhm.
someone who listens, reflects back, is that sounding board, again, helps you move forward in your business. So again, those 6, which I don't know that you and I have talked about them before, but really that cheerleader, the challenger, the connector, the confident, the collaborator, and the coach. If you don't have those in your network already, show up to your next event or your next Zoom call
Mhm.
looking to fill those spots, because I think that is the secret formula that can help you truly succeed, as you lean into your network.
Yeah, I'm thinking, as you're saying this, I'm thinking of one person may fill more than one role,
True. That's
depending
true.
personality wise and what have you. But it's also a great way to probably build a mastermind, skill sets, ideas, sharing, and what have you. Just getting that around you, kind of like a board of directors for your business,
Absolutely.
um,
Exactly. It's about
connecting
intentionally.
regularly.
Yeah, it's about
Yes.
intentionally growing your network. And so again, this is something that, we talk about a lot in different training sessions, but it's the idea that, like, because a lot of people like a network, what does that mean? I don't know. Is just like a Rolodex? There, I just dated myself. Is it like your CRM? Let's just put it into 2025 words. Is that your CRM? No, it's not. It's an intentional network you build to support you so that so you can flourish, so you can grow, and you can turn around and help them flourish and grow as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I'm not sure if you had done these 6 C's on your podcast. I know your podcast is not currently releasing new episodes, but I remember hearing that, and just like, yes, of course,
Mm.
alliteration, all the C's. But it made it simple to go out there and say, okay, what is the element that I'm missing in my current support system? And that's exactly what it is. It's a support system.
Exactly.
Which leg is a little wonky? Where do I need to bolster that support? And then go out and find it, seek it out. And please, guys, it's not going to happen in one
No.
awareness event that you're going to say, "Oh, there's my collaborator." No, no, no. We're
Yeah,
going to we're going to nurture that to see if in fact this is a great person to do
exactly.
that.
And you'll know
And
that over time.
yeah, it has to be. I'm a believer that it has to be mutually beneficial. So your collaborator is going to find another seat in you, right?
Mhm. Yeah,
So the collaborator, that personality might not be yours naturally, but you may have coaching capabilities that helps them fill that support role. The networking is a two-way conversation, interaction, experience, right?
that's absolutely right. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I love that. You're right. It's a conversation. And so when people get bogged down by, by the idea of it, I say it's just sparking conversations. And in fact, that's on our signage when you come into our events. It's sparking conversations because I
Yes.
believe that when you have a conversation, you'll know whether is this something that might lead to a collaboration, or in your totally different industries and you don't see that. Oh, but is this person really appreciative of what you do, and do they build you up? Maybe they could be a cheerleader, right? Or are they just a connector? They know people in the community. And so, yeah, I think that that is absolutely on. The conversations are the catalyst for it, if you will. And as well, you want to build pipeline, right? Because what if your
Mhm.
connector goes off, somewhere else, and suddenly you lose your connector? Like, I want to know that I have some other connectors in my pipeline that I
Yeah, for
can
sure.
also, that I can benefit from and I can support as well.
Yes, absolutely. So tell us what's going on with you. Where are you having those meetups? Are they online? Because I know our audience is all over the world.
Mhm.
How can we be connecting with you and getting some of that wisdom for ourselves?
Yeah, so most of the events are grassroots right here in our community of Stratford and the Perth County region. From time to time, I'm actually just about to announce an online event. I'm not quite ready for it yet, but we do have those. So if you go to freshideacollective.com, all of our events will be listed there, depending on when time in the future you're listening to this podcast. But our online masterminds, I think, are one of the easiest ways that your listeners or listeners and individuals who are outside of the Stratford area can, get in on the fun, because we just kicked off our winter masterminds. And so they are individuals from across Ontario at the moment. Right now, most of them are in Ontario, although we certainly are open to having people from anywhere in the world. And so the online masterminds are a really great way. Right now, our container is 3 months. And so every second week, there's an hour-long mastermind. And of course, we regroup. We have a private Facebook group that we use as well, which is wonderful. And then, of course, the one-on-one mentorship that I do is online and virtual for the most part as well.
Mm.
So I think that, whatever form this takes for you, um, I sometimes say start where you feel comfortable, which is, I think that we will always do that, and then push yourself a little further. So if you haven't gone to a networking event, and even the word networking, for a long time made me just like cringe a bit because of
Yes.
my past experiences, frankly, right? So I want you to rethink networking and find the right group for you. Whether you identify as a woman or a non-binary or you're a man, whatever, it doesn't matter. There is some group out there. And hey, if there isn't, maybe you need to start it.
Yes, I found that. To be honest with you, I found great things happen when I'm looking, I can't find, I create. And sometimes, yeah, I need to iterate over time, change and tweak as I have the experience. But great things come out of creating what you need because there's someone else who's needing it too. And
Exactly.
together, you can provide that missing element for someone else. Kerry, thank you so much. Where are you posting content? I know you spoke about Facebook for your mastermind group sharing and some of your meetups. Where can we interact with you outside of your website?
Yeah. So we're on Instagram and Facebook at Fresh Idea Collective. And I'm also on LinkedIn, Kerry Ramsay, if you want to connect with me there.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for being with us today. I'm hoping that our audience actually taps in and gets some of those great nuggets for themselves. I'm hoping that we can do this again because I'd love to get to know more about the kind of results masterminds are producing, especially when they are well facilitated. I think there's a lot that we can explore in how they create value and create results for their members. And of course, anytime you want to come back, anytime at all, I'll be happy to have you as my guest again. So thanks so much, Kerry.
I love it. Thank you so much for having me.
Mm, perfect. All right, then, everyone, I'll see you again in the next episode of Catalyst Conversations. Until then, see you later. Thank you for joining me today on Catalyst Conversations. I hope this episode sparked something powerful to help on your journey to building wealth confidently and unapologetically. If you loved today's conversation, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if something resonated with you, I'd love to hear about it. Let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, keep moving toward your goals, stay empowered, and continue sparking change on your wealth journey. This is Hadriana, and you've been listening to Catalyst Conversations.